Ilara Voss had expected to die, but not like this. The cold metal restraints bit into her wrists and ankles, pinning her to the interrogation slab in the center of the room. Dim, sterile light flickered from overhead panels, casting jagged shadows on the metallic walls. The air smelled of antiseptic and old blood. Somewhere nearby, a machine pulsed with an eerie, rhythmic hum, calculating pain thresholds, measuring stress responses, ensuring the most efficient means of extracting what the Empire wanted. Her breath came in shallow gasps. The last round had nearly broken her. Nearly. Across the room, the interrogator watched, his elongated form draped in the midnight black robes of the Imperial Inquisitors. His species, the Zalari, were notorious for their cruelty, their sleek, pallid faces unreadable, their six-fingered hands always too still, too patient. This one had introduced himself as Overseer Varric, though names held no meaning here. He was just another instrument of the Empire's tyranny. He leaned forward, his silver eyes narrowing as he studied her bruised and battered body. "You are resilient for a human," he mused, his voice smooth, almost intrigued. "I have shattered minds far stronger than yours in half the time." Ilara swallowed against the coppery taste in her mouth and forced herself to grin. "Guess I must be special." The backhand came fast. A sharp crack echoed through the chamber as her head snapped to the side. Pain exploded behind her eyes, but she refused to cry out. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction. Varric sighed, flexing his fingers. "You've wasted enough of my time." He gestured to the hulking machine beside him, a monolithic construct of wires, needles, and glowing blue conduits. "Your body is reaching its limit, but your mind can still endure much more." She bit back the wave of nausea rising in her throat. She had known capture was a risk, but she had hoped, stupidly, that she could withstand whatever they threw at her. That she could hold out long enough for her squad to extract her. But no rescue was coming. Varric stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Tell me where the resistance is hiding." Ilara smirked through split lips. "Which one?" The Zalari's expression didn't change, but his fingers twitched. The machine whirred to life. Pain, white-hot and all-consuming, lanced through her body. Every nerve ignited, every muscle seized. The scream tore from her throat before she could stop it. It was unlike anything she had ever felt, an agony that reached beyond the physical, tearing into her very essence. And still, she did not break. Minutes blurred into hours. The pain ebbed, then surged, then ebbed again. Through it all, she clung to one thought, one truth she refused to betray: they would never find the resistance. Not through her. Varric watched, his patience thinning. "You disappoint me." Her vision swam, the edges darkening. Her body trembled, racked with exhaustion and torment. She wanted to speak, to throw one last insult in his face, but the strength had left her. Varric exhaled, shaking his head. A waste. He turned to a nearby officer, a towering figure in black Imperial armor. "Terminate her." The soldier stepped forward, drawing a sleek, needle-thin blade. It glowed faintly with an energy charge, designed for quick, surgical kills. Ilara forced her gaze upward, meeting the soldier's visor. If this was the end, she would face it standing. The restraints released. She collapsed to her knees, her limbs refusing to obey her. The blade pressed against her throat, cold and humming with power. Varric crouched beside her, his breath chilling against her ear. "You were warned." Ilara smiled, though the effort sent a fresh wave of blood trickling down her chin. "Yeah." Her voice was barely a whisper. "And so were you." The blade slid across her throat in one smooth motion. Darkness rushed in. Her last thought was not of fear, nor regret, nor even hatred. It was curiosity. Would death be the end? Or something else entirely? There was no light, no sound, no sensation. Ilara existed in a void, untethered from time, from pain, from thought. She was certain she had died. She remembered the blade, the sharp parting of flesh, the warmth of her own blood spilling over her skin. The moment her body had given in, the universe had gone silent. And yet, she was aware. Something was wrong. She was drifting, weightless, unbound, yet not free. Something held her in place, like unseen threads wound tightly around her very being. She could feel them, tugging, pulling, urging her back toward something familiar. Toward her body. The void shuddered. With a gasp, she surged upward, her lungs burning as if starved of air for too long. She inhaled sharply, her body convulsing against the cold floor beneath her. A violent cough racked her frame, and suddenly sensation flooded back all at once. Pain, confusion, the heavy weight of reality settling over her like a smothering cloak. Her fingers twitched. She flexed them, testing, disbelieving. She was alive. A deep, trembling breath. The air was sharp with antiseptic, metal, and something acrid, ozone, perhaps. It burned her throat as she swallowed. Slowly, she forced her eyes open. The chamber was dimly lit, the same sterile, metallic walls surrounding her. She was in a cell, small, featureless, nothing more than a containment space for the dead. She should have been dead. Her hands moved to her throat, expecting the slick warmth of blood, the deep gash where the blade had carved her open. But there was nothing. Smooth skin, unbroken. Her pulse was steady beneath her fingertips. Impossible. She sat up too fast. A wave of dizziness crashed over her, but she steadied herself against the cold floor. Her uniform was still torn, stained with blood, but none of it felt like hers anymore. She flexed her arms, her fingers. There was something different. A strange hum coursed beneath her skin, a faint energy coiled in her veins like a dormant storm. Footsteps. Distant but approaching. Panic should have set in, but it didn't. A clarity settled over her instead, sharp and undeniable. She wasn't afraid. The heavy steel door slid open, light spilling in from the corridor beyond. A guard stepped inside, clad in black Imperial armor, a rifle slung across his chest. He was alone. They hadn't expected her to move. His breath hitched as his visor locked onto her. "Impossible," he whispered. Ilara rose to her feet. The soldier reacted instinctively, raising his weapon. She didn't think, she moved. Faster than she should have been able to. Her hand shot forward, fingers closing around the barrel of his rifle before he could fire. A surge of strength, unfamiliar yet wholly hers, sent him staggering backward as she wrenched the weapon from his grasp with inhuman ease. She barely registered the sharp crack of his skull against the wall. He slumped to the ground, motionless. Ilara stood over him, chest heaving, her grip tightening around the rifle. A thrill shot through her, not just relief, not just adrenaline. Something deeper. She was stronger, faster. Her body, once broken, now hummed with something unnatural. Her heartbeat was steady. Her wounds were gone. She was supposed to be dead. And yet, she was standing. Alive. Changed. And the Empire was about to learn just how big of a mistake they had made. Ilara moved like a shadow through the corridors of the Imperial warship, her bare feet silent against the cold metal. The rifle she had taken from the guard felt weightless in her hands, an extension of herself rather than a burden. Every breath she took came with a sharp awareness of the ship's vibrations, the distant murmurs of patrolling soldiers, the hum of security systems scanning for threats. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt an eerie calm settle over her, a certainty that whatever had happened to her had made her something more. She pressed herself against the wall as two soldiers passed by an intersection ahead, their boots clanking heavily. Their voices were low, but she caught the tension in them. "They said the prisoner is gone," one muttered. "Just vanished from the morgue." The other scoffed. "She didn't vanish. Someone screwed up. Either way, Varric will want her found." Varric. Her fingers clenched around the rifle. A cold, sharp memory surfaced, the gleam of his silver eyes as he watched her break, the slow, clinical way he had studied her suffering. He hadn't just wanted information. He had enjoyed it. The soldiers turned a corner, and Ilara moved. Her body responded without hesitation, instincts sharper than they had ever been. She sprinted down the hallway, her steps impossibly light. The ship's layout came to her in fragments, pieced together from fleeting glances during her capture. If she was right, the control center was 2 levels above. She needed answers. A console blinked to life as she accessed the ship's database, her fingers moving swiftly across the interface. Security logs, prisoner records, classified research files. She skimmed through them, searching for anything that could explain what had happened to her. Then, something caught her eye. Project Echo. She hesitated, then opened the file. Lines of text filled the screen. Experiments on human captives. Subjects who had died and inexplicably returned. Failed trials. The words blurred as her pulse pounded in her ears. This wasn't an anomaly. The Empire had been studying this phenomenon for years, searching for a way to control it. And she was the first success. A wave of revulsion crashed over her. They had done this to her kind, dissected them, treated them as little more than test subjects. But something had changed this time. Something they hadn't accounted for. She wasn't just an experiment. She was awake. A presence stirred behind her. She whirled, raising the rifle. Varric stood in the doorway. He wasn't surprised to see her. If anything, he looked intrigued. "Fascinating," he murmured, stepping inside. The door slid shut behind him. Ilara didn't lower the rifle. "You knew." His lips curled slightly. "Of course." The answer should have angered her, but she only felt the ice settling deeper in her chest. "You were expecting me to come back." Varric inclined his head. "I was hoping you would. Most of the others were unstable. But you," he gestured toward her, almost admiring. "You are something new." Disgust curled in her stomach. "You tortured me to death. And yet, here you stand." Her finger tightened on the trigger. Varric remained still, unshaken. "Do you even understand what you are now?" His voice was quiet, almost gentle. "You are beyond human. Beyond life and death. The Empire has spent decades searching for this power, but you," his eyes gleamed, "you are the first to wield it." She didn't want his words to affect her, but they did. The truth hung between them, undeniable. She had died, and she had come back. Stronger. But she didn't belong to the Empire. Ilara exhaled slowly, leveling the rifle at his chest. "You're right about one thing," she said. "I am something new." Then she pulled the trigger. The blast sent Varric crashing against the wall, smoke curling from the wound in his chest. His silver eyes widened in shock as he slid to the floor. Ilara stepped over his body, her pulse steady. She had answers now. And it was time the Empire learned what happened when they tried to play God. Alarms blared across the warship, red lights flashing in pulsing waves along the corridors. Ilara moved through the chaos with lethal precision, her stolen rifle spitting plasma at anything in her way. She had no plan beyond destruction. No thought beyond the warpath stretching ahead of her. The Empire had tried to break her, and in doing so, they had created something they could no longer contain. A squad of soldiers rounded the corner, weapons raised. She didn't hesitate. Her body moved before her mind could process, a blur of motion that sent her weaving between blasts, closing the distance in seconds. The first soldier crumpled as she drove the butt of her rifle into his throat. The second fell with a clean shot to the visor. The third barely had time to scream before she wrenched his own weapon from his hands and turned it against him. By the time their bodies hit the floor, she was already running. The ship's command center was close. She could feel it. A deep, burning certainty hummed beneath her skin, guiding her forward. Another blast door sealed ahead of her. She didn't stop. She didn't slow. She slammed into it at full speed, expecting resistance. Instead, the metal buckled under her weight, groaning as it caved inward. She staggered for half a breath before regaining her footing. Her strength was growing. The control room was bathed in flickering emergency lights. Technicians scrambled to override security protocols, officers shouting into comms. At the center of it all stood the warship's commander, a tall, armored figure whose presence seemed to swallow the space around him. He turned slowly, helmeted gaze locking onto her. "Ilara Voss," he said, her name curling with disdain. You should not be alive. She lifted the rifle. Yeah, I get that a lot. The commander tilted his head. Do you even understand what you are? The words mirrored Varric's final question, but this time she knew the answer. I'm the end of you. She fired. The commander moved faster than any human should, twisting aside as the plasma bolt scorched past him. He was on her in an instant, striking with the force of a machine. She barely managed to dodge, his fist grazing her ribs with enough power to dent metal. Not human. The realization hit at the same time his next strike did. She rolled with the impact, pain singing through her bones but fading just as fast. She had no time to question it. She had to fight. They clashed, a whirlwind of blows too fast for the eye to follow. She had never fought like this before, her instincts sharper, her movements precise beyond reason. It wasn't just strength. It was something deeper. Something she was only beginning to understand. The commander faltered first. She caught his wrist, twisting hard. The armor cracked under her grip, and for the first time, she saw hesitation in his stance. He was afraid. That was all she needed. She wrenched his own blade from his belt and drove it up beneath his helmet. The blade hissed as it met flesh, and the commander went still. She stepped back as he collapsed, exhaling slowly. The room had gone silent. The remaining officers stared at her, wide-eyed. Some reached for weapons, but she was already moving. The control panels flickered under her hands as she accessed the ship's core systems. Her fingers flew across the interface, disabling safety protocols, overriding security locks. She wasn't just escaping. She was ending this. A countdown began on the screen. The ship's reactor hummed ominously beneath her feet, power surging toward a critical overload. She turned toward the remaining Imperials. Run. Some did. Others hesitated. It didn't matter. The explosion would take them all. Ilara walked toward the viewport, watching the planet below. Somewhere down there, the Resistance was still fighting. And now, they had a chance. The ship trembled as the countdown neared 0. She closed her eyes. The blast consumed everything. And in the darkness that followed, something stirred. She breathed. She lived. Again.